is there here? What is at this site?
Here at this site, we have the tomb of Moses.
There's a tomb here.
Yeah.
Of Moses.
Yes.
The hunt for the tomb where this historical figure rests holds untold and terrifying truths about the nature of humanity, and the search for it still rages to this day. But could this tomb hold more questions than answers? What do researchers have to say about this long-held mystery behind the legend of Moses? Explorers now believe they have found his tomb, and what they have found could change everything. Expedition Unknown is launching a full-blown investigation into the death and burial of Moses, the legendary figure from the Bible. The host of this investigation is Josh Gates, and he needs to know the truth behind the historical, living, breathing man known as Moses and where he was laid to rest. Archaeologist Taufik Da'adli explains that Moses's burial site was detailed in biblical tradition and stated that he was buried on the other side of the valley they are standing on. He also explains that Moses died on Mount Nebo. The final resting place of Moses could be within reach for researchers who have found long-hidden clues that all point toward one of the most significant finds in archaeological history. The religious significance cannot be overstated, as Moses is a figure of great reverence across many faiths and to many people. The clues have led researchers under the Sea of Galilee, where a mysterious underwater structure has been spotted for the first time. This finding challenges everything we know about the history and legend of Moses. The legendary Miriam's Well is a backdrop to this discovery, adding to the mystique behind these proceedings for the scientists, archaeologists, and researchers.
We're dropping a seismic air gun in the Sea of Galilee to scan an underwater anomaly that could be connected to the biblical legend known as Miriam's Well.
Could the Middle East be left in turmoil after these truths come to light? How can this change or impact life in the modern day? The mission is clear. The Expedition Unknown crew, with Josh Gates at the head, will be exploring the sea for more clues that can illuminate the past of Miriam's Well. According to legend, the so-called Miriam's Well was water provided to the Israelites during their 40 years wandering the desert, a miracle that is directly attributed to the survival of their people.
We're dropping a seismic air gun in the Sea of Galilee to scan an underwater anomaly that could be connected to the biblical legend known as Miriam's Well,
and to the sister of Moses, who was named Miriam. The researchers believe that the structure they have found in the Sea of Galilee could prove that the legend of Miriam's Well is true and historical fact. The story of the Exodus is famous, and the main players in the story are Moses and his two siblings, Aaron and Miriam. She is important to the narrative of the Exodus and is first introduced to people as the watchful, loving sister who ensures the safety of her little brother. Moses, as she sends him down the Nile River in a basket. The story continues with Moses being found floating in his basket and named a miracle to his new family. However, the story of Miriam is picked up with her emerging as a leader in her own right, as she leads the women of Israel in celebration after their escape across the Red Sea to escape the Pharaoh's tyranny. Miriam is often associated with water, and this theme continues through her entire story and legend. From the Nile River to the shore of the Red Sea, her legend ends with the well that nourished her people and is named after her. According to Israelite traditions, after they escaped Egypt, they were saved in the desert by manna from heaven, which was, in actuality, water that sprung from a miracle well that followed them on their treacherous journey. This water was blessed as it was not just any ordinary source of water, but a gift from God for the good and righteous work Miriam had done in saving her people. The well itself is described in the legend as a rock that rolled along with the Israelites and would spurt out water when they needed to quench their thirst. The water was said to be sweet-tasting and was more than just a physical sustenance, but also a spiritual one that kept the Israelites hopeful and determined to survive. The level of importance of Miriam's well lives on today, in the legends and traditions of these people.
But you could see how something like this could become the Well of Miriam, something dry that then is consumed by water.
As it demonstrates the grace and love of God for his children. The narrative that he loves the Israelites is an underlying theme in this story, as well as highlighting what an excellent example Miriam was to have been so brave and faithful. This story also is a reminder of the power of faith and the power of a strong leader. Each of the siblings played a crucial role in the story. Moses was the one who provided law and order to the people. Aaron offered mediation and diplomacy. Meanwhile, the story of Miriam is also one on the importance of how powerful and necessary it is to nurture community and provide sustenance. Without her well, survival would not have been so easy and could have easily broken the spirits of the escaped Israelites. The events after her death strengthened the connection she had to the well. The accounts after her death suggest that the well disappeared after her passing, and this led to another significant event in the story of Exodus, where Moses strikes a rock to bring forth water. This was an act of disobedience that God punished him for by forbidding him from entering the promised land. Next in the connections to the Bible is the Sea of Galilee, which is a freshwater lake in Israel which has geological and archaeological significance. In recent years, what was found underwater in this site has ignited a storm of questions and launched great expeditions. Historians and scholars alike are once more captivated by this story. What they found is an anomaly that has sparked a flood of debates and speculation. This mysterious structure found at the bottom of the ancient lake was identified during a sonar survey by Israeli scientists in 2003. As the scientists mapped the bottom of this lake, they came across the massive cone-shaped.
This is why I stopped shopping on Amazon, and you should too. Don't spend another dime on Amazon.
Structure made of basalt rocks and boulders. Located only half a mile northwest of the shores of the Sea of Galilee, they immediately noticed this structure that measured over 230 feet in diameter and rising 39 feet from the lakebed, and weighing an estimated 60,000 tons. This suggests a significant effort was used to construct it.
So we have this Jerusalem Talmud that says that you could look down into the Sea of Galilee and see this bump. Is there anything else like this that rises up out of the lake here?
The mysterious origins have made imaginations run wild, and in a location rich with biblical history, the connections to Miriam's well were unavoidable. According to Jewish tradition, the water that the well provided during their 4 decades in the desert and the fate of the well seems to indicate that it was hidden. This is why researchers believe that the anomaly found in the Sea of Galilee could be related to Miriam's well or be the actual resting place of the well. To get a closer look at the anomaly, researchers used seismic air guns, which are commonly used in oil and gas operations and geological studies, to release high-pressure air into the water and create sound waves that can penetrate the seabed. When these sound waves are reflected back to the surface, these waves are then caught by sensors, which allow scientists to create very detailed images of the subsurface structures touched by the sound waves. The 3-dimensional detailed images then allow the scientists to determine the nature of what lies under the water. In the case of the anomaly found in the Sea of Galilee, the scientists believe the massive size could point to it being artificial, meaning that people must have brought the huge boulders of basalt and stacked them on top of each other, since this never happens in nature. The layers of basalt boulders were carefully placed, which suggests they were done so for a specific purpose. The age of the structure suggests it could be from the early Bronze Age, around 4,000 years ago. The use of this state-of-the-art technology to learn the secrets of ancient history is a huge turning stone for people across the world. The hunt for information and the truth is more valuable than ever before. However, even with this deeper understanding of one aspect of the region's history, they still need to figure out what their findings mean. Some of the researchers guess it could have been a monument, a burial mound, or even a ceremonial site. Josh Gates is eager to learn whether it is indeed Moses' tomb. However, others believe it could be of religious significance and not necessarily a grave marker. The connection to Miriam's well also poses a tantalizing question of whether biblical happenings could now be proved or expanded upon with technology. Focusing once more on the anomaly itself, the researchers note that the structure is massive and composed of basalt boulders and stones that form a huge cone-shaped pile on the lakebed. The size and arrangement leave no doubt that it would have taken considerable effort to create. Basalt is a volcanic and common rock found in the area, and is a sign that whoever built it used what materials they had around them instead of importing them. The reason for doing this is unclear. However, initial estimates as to the age of the structure could give them a hint as to who created this structure. The age is based on the sediment layers and comparisons drawn to similar archaeological sites. The early to mid-Bronze Age is their most educated estimate. This is a period that is known for the sudden emergence of more complex societies that had great advancements in metalworking and the establishment of trade networks across the Near East. This mysterious structure is big enough and grand enough to suggest a well-organized community is behind its creation. This means that the society behind it had to have had suitably advanced communication and cooperation skills to achieve such a large-scale project. Of course, this is an incredible feat of engineering and architectural skill, but its importance seems to go beyond that and touches on a more historical significance. The placement of the structure in the middle of the lake.
It continues under the sediment here.
It continues under the sediment, so
Wow.
it means that the sediment accumulated after the structure was built.
Which has become submerged due to the shift in water levels, suggests it could have had a link to the worship of water, something more valuable than usual in such a desert climate. The Exodus story which took place in this region could be connected to this structure. Something dry which is then consumed by water, as Josh Gates puts it, could have it pinpointed as the Well of Miriam. If it predates the story of Exodus, it could provide insights that would be valuable to religions which put a lot of importance on this narrative. It would also be important information for historians, as they would be able to learn more about society before the emergence of the Israelites. These people and their history could have an untold amount of influence over the stories and legends remembered today. If further research and data can put this structure's date of creation closer to the traditional timeline of the Exodus, it could offer an incredible amount of insight and evidence into the monumental projects that were possible at the time. This would be an amazing piece of evidence that could lend credibility to the stories of large-scale constructions and engineering that are described in the Bible but have never been confirmed to be true. For example, the building of altars and standing stones already have a basis in the capabilities of the people of the time. All of this comes back around to Moses' tomb, which has become a fascinating intersection of archaeology, religion, and history. For centuries, people have wondered about this mythical figure and his place in history, and now they are one step closer to gathering information on whether he was real at all and answering the question of his resting place. This is not at all an unusual thing to wonder about, as the resting place of significant figures has often been memorialized and marked with great care and ceremony, even in modern times.
But nothing earlier than that.
Something that you can touch? No.
Right, maybe an oral tradition, but it's been lost to history.
Yes.
Okay.
Finding Moses' tomb would give historians and theologians so much more new
Could we use your house to trial our new energy-saving windows? We're looking for homeowners within valid states to test
information. The account of Moses' death is found in the religious text, Deuteronomy 34, and describes that Moses died in the land of Moab and was buried in a valley opposite Bethor, but no one knows where his burial is located, even to this day. They don't even have evidence of this burial ever existing. Josh Gates makes an interesting observation that Moses is mentioned a lot in the Quran, and the archaeologist, Tawfiq, is able to name how many times Moses is mentioned in the holy text, at an astounding 130 times, which is more times than any other prophet. According to the Quran, Moses did cross the river, and he ended up standing right where Josh Gates is currently standing. The rather undetailed and vague nature of Moses' burial and death serves to highlight the nature of his death. Shrouded in mystery and quiet, rumors persist that his burial was orchestrated by God himself, since details are so scarce. The biblical account of his burial has led many to their own conclusions, mainly that the burial site was kept secret to protect it and prevent it from becoming a site of idolatry, and of course, so that it may remain undisturbed. While Moses is a hero in many faiths, mainly the Christian and Jewish faiths, it is also in the Islamic faith that he is seen as a highly regarded figure, as one of their prophets and a messenger of God. His story is seen as one that contains many parallels to that found in the Bible. His mission to lead the Israelites remains consistent, as well as his role as a receiver of divine revelations. But in Islamic tradition, the matter of his burial differs from accounts in biblical retellings. Some Islamic texts describe his burial site as being near the Red Dunes of Roman Jordan, while others believe what is described hints at the site being in Jericho in the West Bank. Another notable site that is associated with Moses is the tomb of Nabi Musa in the West Bank, which Muslims have revered for centuries as his burial place. The site has a mosque and a mausoleum, and has become a point of reverence and pilgrimage, which suitably demonstrates the depth of respect and love those in the Islamic faith hold for him even to this day. There is a tradition in the Islamic faith that dates back centuries, which calls for an annual pilgrimage to Nabi Musa. Much of the spiritual landscape of the region can somehow be tied back to Moses and their undying love for him as a prophet of their faith. The search for his tomb goes beyond the physical for this reason. Archaeologists and scholars have conducted countless explorations and shared many theories about where the tomb is and how to find it. The elusive nature of the tomb keeps in theme with much of the elusive and mysterious nature of faith in a higher power itself. Josh Gates wants to know if Moses is truly inside the tomb that marks the site of worship and pilgrimage in Nabi Musa. According to the expert archaeologist who accompanied James, the tomb is acknowledged this way largely in part to Muslim tradition and their determination that this was the site of his burial. He then explains that it has been that way since the 13th century when it became a whole compound. Those of the Islamic faith were able to marry tradition with the desire to find Moses' tomb. They understood the deep desire for connection with the divine and the historical. However, all know that this beautiful site and tomb are largely symbolic in nature. In truth, many have pondered what it really means to be so interested in finding the tomb where Moses rests. Many have come to understand and appreciate that it is a need to have a physical representation of the legacy and enduring impact Moses had on religion and moral philosophy. Nabi Musa stands as a testament to all of these things all at once. For those who have not realized it yet, Musa does in fact mean Moses. The location is also very significant, as it is located not far from Jerusalem and the Dead Sea. A focal point for the religious devotion of multiple faiths, this place has centuries of tradition, culture, and spiritual value. Josh Gates comments on how a great challenge people have confronted is how to look at the stories of the Bible and the Quran and find a happy medium between the two where they converge to create a place like Nabi Musa, a place that is both significant to the faith and to history and archaeology. What really lingers in Josh's mind is knowing at once that while nobody truly knows what lies in the tomb, spiritually, it makes no difference.
And find that intersection between faith and history and archaeology, because we don't really know what's here.
It is a place where all of those emotions and legacy can be safely laid down. While Islamic scripture lacks specific text evidence, the belief is widely accepted that Nabi Musa contains the tomb of Moses. The traditions here go back to the medieval period, with existing shrines and mosque complexes that people believe were established in the 13th century under the rule of the Mamluk Sultan, Baybars. The site has undergone many renovations and expansions, reflecting its enduring importance in the minds of the Islamic world. This is a destination whose pilgrimage coincides with the Muslim holiday, Laylat al-Miraj, which celebrates the Prophet Muhammad's night journey and ascension to heaven. This pilgrimage, a tradition observed for centuries, underscores the incredible impact of Nabi Musa as more than just a memorial to a long-dead biblical figure. It also served as a communal and religious identity. The history and belief in Nabi Musa is equally shrouded in mystical and religious thinking. According to some accounts, the site was first found in an unconventional way. Guided by a prophetic dream or vision, the location of Moses' final resting place was revealed. While there was no archaeological or textual evidence to confirm this narrative, it has managed to give Nabi Musa a sacred aura and a site of great veneration that remains to this day. Many people have questioned the decision to honor this unique way of locating Moses' burial site, but it has been full of challenges and sensitivities along the way. This site cannot be easily supplanted after such a long time. Request.
Home Depot hates when you do this, but they can't stop you. This new
To conduct archaeological digs in such a sacred space have been approached with great delicacy, as religion, tradition, and culture can be explosive topics if handled roughly. This site is unlike anywhere else in the world with few exceptions. The reverence related to this historical site prevents scientists and researchers from excavating and satiating their scientific curiosities. The need to respect the region's religious beliefs and practices is a challenge in this case. Josh Gates asked the archaeologist if the tomb of Moses at the Nabi Musa site has ever been opened. He responds carefully and explains that this is a religious matter and something that is not mixed in with science and excavation, especially in the Holy Land. Of course, this is an answer that was expected, as scholars and scientists with an interest in the tomb have long come to expect such limitations and traditions throughout the centuries. The reason that the curiosity and questions have persisted for so long is because of these beliefs, which protect the tomb from any prying eyes and minds. The desire to uncover the truth and honor the past comes to a head at this site. Any archaeological excavation is to be treated with the most respect and care possible if it is to be permitted. The reason for this lies in the fact that any research that is conducted here that has the power to alter or challenge traditional beliefs about Moses' tomb will add a layer of political and religious complexity that cannot be underestimated. For this reason, a collaborative approach needs to be taken that can engage both religious authorities and the local community in the process. Mount Nebo's importance comes from its place in the Bible as the final resting place of Moses. Moses' ascent to the peak of Nebo is documented in the Bible as happening due to God's demand so that Moses may gaze upon the land of Canaan. According to the text, after viewing the promised land, Moses died on the mountain, and in the scripture, God himself then buried him in Moab. And in the text, it is stated that no man knows of his tomb unto this day. This narrative thus gives Mount Nebo the greatest of significance, as it is the place where Moses died and was then buried by God. It is the last place he was alive and is a place of pilgrimage for people across many faiths. This is one of the most potent and spiritually significant landmarks that stands to this day. Over the centuries, Mount Nebo has attracted reflection and reverence from believers. Pilgrims from the Christian, Jewish, and Islamic faiths will often find their way here. The desire to stand where he once stood is too great a temptation to pass up. Many even make the journey with the wish to be touched with divinity as he once was, and to reconfirm their faiths. The religious importance is given weight due to the presence of early Christian mosaics that have been preserved there. There is also a monastery and church for visitors to enjoy, which also stand as proof of the long history of reverence of this area. There are many artifacts for the viewing and enjoyment of these pilgrims, some dating back to the 4th century, which look into the early Christian community's efforts to commemorate the impact and legacy that Moses left behind. The Franciscan order, which has maintained the site since the early 20th century, has conducted extensive excavations which have discovered amazing archaeological finds that shed light into the Christian past of this ancient and holy site. The mosaics are complex and religious in design and motifs. These are among some of the most valuable in the Middle East, which showcase a blend of art, history, and religion that is connected to Mount Nebo. Unlike the site of Moses' tomb in Nabi Musa,
There is an inscription from the 13th century, and we have the date. It's 1269.
this site is more open to archaeological excavation. In the wise words of archaeologist Tawfiq, it is important to know when to follow tradition and respect a culture, which is why he explains to James Gates that the tomb will never be opened. He explains that there is no need to open the tomb as it is a matter beyond science, and more of a matter of faith and tradition. James Gates seems to understand this boundary, and he decides that perhaps even researchers and scientists must at times learn what is worth pursuing and what is best leaving well enough alone. The search for concrete evidence on Moses' burial remains elusive for a complex list of reasons. Most would point to the Bible as having the answers to this question, which in its text describes how the location of Moses' grave has always meant to stay unknown. In addition to this, the lack of any physical evidence that links Moses to Mount Nebo does not take away from the significance of this site. Remarkably, it instead highlights the spot as a symbol of faith and proof of the power of a biblical narrative. The historical and religious importance of this holy site is only strengthened when one remembers how it is prominent in religious texts and its acknowledgement from religious authorities throughout the centuries. The incredible views of the Holy Land include significant and sacred sites like the Jordan Valley, the Dead Sea, Jericho, and even Jerusalem. This is just as described in the biblical story and lends a sense of awe and majesty, as well as credibility to a story that could have so easily been dismissed. The power of standing there and looking up at the Holy Land is one that millions have made for their strong belief and faith. Visitors can feel a moment of connection to Moses, as well as underscore the complex blend of religious tradition, diverse perspectives, and the power of protecting sacred sites for future generations, in the amount of love and respect that have been connected to Moses. Its mass appeal lies in its ties to nature and tradition that has gone unbroken for hundreds of years. It is a bridge between the seen and unseen, from the present to the past, and it holds a power that is not able to be measured by any scientific equipment or observation. The tomb of Moses has been found and yet remains as great a mystery today as it ever has in the past.
He said, I saw Moses praying on his tomb, and the tomb is believed to be here.
On this side of the Jordan River.
Yeah.
Aha. So we have.
Since the location is so easily reached and the tomb so easily seen, one would think all questions would be answered by now, and yet somehow the mystery and hunt remains as fresh as it ever was. The deep research and investigation that has gone into studying the Holy Land and sites with connections to the tale of Moses have only proven to be an obstacle not even the curious researchers of Expedition Unknown have been able to conquer. From the anomaly in the Sea of Galilee to the site where Moses last stood at the behest of God himself, our brave host, Josh Gates, has tried to dig into this long-standing mystery and has been faced with obstacles of all kinds in his path. While the scientific portion of this question remains unanswered, as they were unable to excavate or open Moses's tomb for religious and traditional reasons, they have been able to make some headway by scanning the lake for more information on the mysterious structure under the water.
Dry that then is consumed by water.
It is definitely a possibility.
The next step will be to.
It is with a deeper understanding and new data under their arms that the researchers on this expedition leave this mystery behind with lighter hearts. But when it comes to hunting the truth, the search is never over. Will they ever get to open the tomb or excavate in Nabi Musa?